Have you ever felt like your intelligence, the very thing that makes you so capable in many parts of your life, becomes a painful burden when it comes to relationships? If so, you're not alone, and it's not your fault. The work of the brilliant psychologist Carl Jung reveals a profound truth. For many gifted people, the struggle to connect isn't a personal flaw, but a sign of a deeper psychological process. Once you understand the hidden role of what he called the shadow, you'll never look at your relationships the same way again. There's a quiet paradox that haunts many intelligent minds. It's the experience of seeing the world through a high-definition lens. You can deconstruct complex problems, spot patterns others miss, and see how systems work with startling clarity. And yet, when it comes to the profoundly human act of forming a deep relationship, that same powerful intellect can feel like a liability. It's a painful irony. The mind that can build empires of logic often gets lost in the quiet, intimate space between two people. This isn't about a lack of social skills. It's a much deeper, more existential kind of isolation. It's the loneliness that comes not from an absence of people, but from an absence of resonance. There's a quote often attributed to Carl Jung that captures this perfectly. He wrote, "Loneliness doesn't come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. For a highly intelligent person, this can be a daily reality because, the things that seem important, they're often layers deeper than everyday small talk." You might recognize this in the sheer exhaustion that follows an hour of light conversation, a chat that feels not just unfulfilling but, psychologically draining. While others connect over, trivial things, your mind is a relentless analysis engine, always picking up on subtle inconsistencies in a story, a flicker of inauthenticity in a smile, or perhaps unspoken emotional currents in a room. Jung would say you have a heightened awareness of human complexity. You see the masks people wear, what he called the persona, and you sense the vast hidden world of their unconscious motivations stirring underneath. But this clarity, this curse of seeing too much, it often creates a gulf. How do you build a bridge to someone who seems happy to live on the surface when you're always aware of the depths? This can lead to a painful pattern. You might find yourself in partnerships that feel shallow, where you're loved for a curated, socially acceptable version of yourself. But your true, complex inner world, it remains unseen. You might yearn for a connection that matches the richness of your own inner life, only to find that your intensity, it overwhelms potential partners. People tell you you're too intense, too serious, or that you think too much. Over time, you might learn to shrink yourself just to maintain a connection, but this comes at a tremendous cost. It's a form of self-abandonment, trading your authenticity for the illusion of belonging. This creates a deep internal conflict. You crave authentic connection, but your own mind seems to sabotage it. You might overanalyze your partner's every move, creating anxiety and distance. You might even see the potential breaking points of a relationship with such clarity that you hesitate to commit. Fearing a heartbreak your mind has already mapped out, you just pull back. This isn't pessimism. It's a mind wired for pattern recognition, just doing its job, a little too well. The result is a deep, gnawing loneliness. The loneliness of being an island of awareness in what can feel like an ocean of unconsciousness. You feel fundamentally misunderstood, not because you're flawed, but because the language of your soul is one that few people seem to speak. According to Jung's theories, this struggle isn't a relational failure. It's the painful yet powerful starting point of one of the most important journeys you can take. The journey of individuation. The pain you feel is not a verdict, it's a calling. To understand why this painful paradox exists, We have to look deeper than personality clashes or communication breakdowns. The answer lies in the vast hidden territory of the unconscious mind. For this, there's no better guide than Carl Jung. Jung's work offers a revolutionary way of seeing this problem, the struggles of highly intelligent people in relationships. Well, they aren't because of too much intellect, but because of a profound disconnect from the other essential parts of the human psyche. For Jung, the mind isn't a single, unified thing. It's a dynamic dance, really, between conscious and unconscious forces. Our conscious mind, what we call the ego, is what we think of as I. It's our identity, our rational thoughts, our everyday awareness. Intelligent people, they often have a very strong, highly developed ego. They're masters of logic and conscious control. They build their identities around their intellect because, well, that's what society has consistently rewarded. But that's only half the picture. Beneath that well-lit stage of the conscious ego lies the sprawling, mysterious world of the unconscious. This is the realm of our instincts, our repressed emotions, and those powerful, universal patterns Jung called archetypes. For many intelligent individuals, actually, the very strength of their intellect becomes a kind of fortress. It's built to keep the seemingly chaotic forces of the unconscious, at bay. They get good at thinking about their feelings, instead of actually truly feeling them. They analyze their pain. They rationalize their desires, all in an effort to maintain control. Now, Jung warned that this over-reliance on intellect, it actually creates a dangerous imbalance. He argued that true wisdom, comes from integrating the conscious with the unconscious. When we fail to do this, though, the neglected parts of ourselves, they don't just go away. They operate in the dark, subtly sabotaging our lives in ways we can't even understand. As Jung famously put it, and it's a profound statement, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This is the heart of the matter for intelligent people in relationships. The very issues that plague their connections, things like misunderstandings, intense conflicts, or even an attraction to partners who seem to bring out the worst in them. These aren't random acts of fate. No, they're the direct result of unconscious dynamics playing out on the stage of their relationships. Specifically, applying Jung's work, we can point to two critical unconscious components as the true culprits: the shadow and complexes. These aren't just abstract concepts, they're living, breathing parts of your psyche that get activated with immense force within the pressure cooker of intimacy. A relationship from this perspective is where our most deeply buried material inevitably comes to the surface, triggered by the person closest to us. Therefore, the intelligent person's struggle is not really with their partner, it's with the parts of themselves they've refused to see. The frustration, the conflict, the loneliness, these are all symptoms of a deeper inner battle. To understand this battle, we have to look into the darkness. Our brilliant intellect has worked so hard to ignore. We need to look at Carl Jung's concept of the shadow. Of all of Carl Jung's revolutionary ideas, none is more essential for understanding relationship turmoil than the concept of the shadow. The shadow, simply put, is the dark side of our personality. It's an unconscious container for all the parts of ourselves we've disowned or repressed because we learned they were bad or unlovable. For example, a child told not to show anger doesn't stop feeling it. They just learn to push it down into the unconscious, where it becomes part of the shadow. For a gifted child, this process can be particularly intense. They're often praised for being logical and composed. As a result, the messier parts of being human, like emotional vulnerability, neediness, or irrational anger, are often the first things pushed into the shadow. The child learns that to be valued, they must be the smart one. They build a conscious identity or persona around these acceptable traits, while their unlived emotional self is cast into darkness. The shadow isn't inherently evil, it's just what we've rejected. It can hold negative impulses, but it can also hold immense positive potential, like passion, creativity, and assertiveness. So what does this have to do with your relationship struggles? Everything. The shadow doesn't stay quiet. It demands to be seen. Its primary way of doing that is through a psychological process, Jung called projection. Projection is when we unconsciously attribute our own unacknowledged traits to other people. We literally see in others what we won't see in ourselves. As Jung said, projections change the world into the replica of one's own unknown face. In relationships, shadow projection is the invisible engine driving countless conflicts. That disproportionately strong emotional reaction you have to someone, whether it's intense irritation or intoxicating admiration, is often you coming face to face with your own projected shadow. Think about negative projection. Have you ever been intensely annoyed by a partner's perceived laziness or emotional neediness? The very things that trigger us most in others are often clues to what's in our own shadow. The intelligent person who built their identity on being productive and self-sufficient has likely repressed their own needs for rest and vulnerable dependence. When their partner embodies these traits, it can trigger an unconscious rage. The conscious mind says, "Their laziness is so frustrating." But the unconscious dynamic is, "I've forbidden myself from ever resting or being needy. And seeing you do it so freely, well, it just reminds me of the part of myself I've cut off." You're not just arguing with your partner. You're arguing with your own disowned self. Positive projection can be even trickier. This is the root of love at first sight or intense infatuation. We project our golden shadow, our positive, undeveloped potential, onto someone else. For example, an analytical, introverted intellectual might be completely captivated by a partner who is spontaneous and emotionally free. They see this person as their other half. In reality, they're falling in love with a reflection of their own dormant potential. The problem is, this puts an impossible burden on the other person. You're not loving the real human in front of you. You're loving an illusion. Inevitably, the real person emerges. The projection shatters, and disappointment follows. You feel betrayed, thinking you've changed, when really, the illusion you created has just dissolved. This is why many intelligent people find themselves in a painful cycle. They're drawn to partners who embody the emotionality they've repressed, creating a powerful initial attraction, but the intellectual partner stays in their head, analyzing emotions, while the emotional partner is expected to do all the feeling for both of them. This dynamic, it's unsustainable. Eventually, the intellectual may feel contempt for their partner's irrationality, which is, truly, a projection of their own feared inner chaos, while the emotional partner feels unseen by someone who seems to live behind a wall of logic. This is where that feeling of being chronically misunderstood comes from. I mean, how can a partner truly see you when you're unconsciously hiding half of yourself, not just from them, but even from your own awareness? As long as your shadow remains hidden, you'll feel profoundly alone, even in the most intimate of settings. The key to breaking this cycle isn't finding the right person, no. It's undertaking the courageous work of turning inward and facing the parts of yourself you've left in the dark. Now, if the shadow is that disowned territory within you, then complexes are the emotionally charged landmines hidden in that territory. A complex, in Jungian psychology, is essentially an emotionally charged cluster of thoughts, feelings, and memories that gathers around an archetypal core. Think of it like a splinter in your psyche, a sensitive, autonomous subpersonality that can be triggered, causing a reaction that is often wildly out of proportion to the actual situation. Everyone has complexes, but for high IQ individuals, certain complexes related to intellect can become particularly disruptive, especially in relationships. While Jung, he discussed the general theory, these often manifest as patterns we might today call a perfectionism complex, an imposter complex, or even a superiority-inferiority complex. And they often form right in childhood. For instance, the gifted child praised for being the smart one might develop a superiority complex, where their entire self-worth just gets fused with their intellect. The crucial thing to understand is that when a complex is activated, it temporarily takes over your conscious ego. You're no longer in the driver's seat. This is why you can have reactions that you later look back on and think, I don't know what came over me. In that moment, you weren't your whole self. You were in the grip of a complex. Now put this in a relationship. Your partner, through an innocent word or action, can unknowingly step on one of these psychic landmines. Imagine an intelligent person with a powerful perfectionism complex. Their partner offers some gentle feedback saying, "This looks great, but did you consider trying it this way?" To someone else, this is a healthy exchange. But to the person in the grip of the perfectionism complex, it's heard as a devastating judgment. You are a failure. You are not good enough. The reaction is immediate. They might get intensely defensive or withdraw into a wounded silence. Their partner is left bewildered, wondering how a minor suggestion caused such a dramatic response. They aren't reacting to their partner. They're reacting to the activation of a deep psychic wound. Consider another common scenario, the superiority-inferiority dynamic. In a debate, someone with a superiority complex might feel a compulsive need to win the argument, almost like using their intellect as a weapon. This leaves their partner feeling belittled and shut out. Conversely, if their partner brings up a topic where they feel uninformed, their inferiority complex can be triggered, causing them to feel intense shame and shut down the conversation entirely. In both cases, genuine connection is impossible. For intelligent individuals, these complexes are especially potent. They fear being found out as an imposter, or being seen as just average. A relationship demands vulnerability, though, and admitting imperfection, which constantly pokes at these fears. The desire to maintain an image of intellectual control, it's just fundamentally at odds with the relational need for emotional surrender. This is why relationships can feel so confusing. You may have the same fight over and over, because you're not really arguing about the surface topic. Instead, you're repeatedly reenacting the core drama of an unconscious complex. Until that complex is made conscious, you're just doomed to repeat the pattern, always seeing your partner as the source of your pain. But truly, they're merely the messenger, delivering really a critical dispatch from your own unconscious. After journeying through the labyrinth of shadow projections and unconscious complexes, it might feel like, relationships are just a psychological minefield. But this is where Jung's work really transforms from just a diagnosis into a hopeful path forward. See, the goal isn't to get rid of the shadow or find a partner who never triggers you. No, the true path to authentic connection lies in the courageous process of integration. And this is the essence of what is popularly known as shadow work. So what exactly is shadow work? Well, it's the conscious process of turning your attention toward the parts of yourself you've disowned. It's not about becoming a better person, but a whole person. It's the work of bringing the unconscious into the light, not to judge it, but to truly understand and integrate it. As Jung famously stated, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. So, what does this actually look like? First, pay attention to your projections. Your emotional triggers are your greatest teachers. The next time you feel a surge of intense irritation toward your partner, pause. Instead of blaming them, turn the lens inward and ask, why is this specific behavior affecting me so strongly? And what part of me does this person's action reflect? Recognizing your projections, that's the first step to taking them back. Second, embrace the disowned self. This means consciously exploring the traits you've pushed into your shadow. A powerful exercise? Try listing the qualities you just can't stand in others. Now, consider, how might these traits exist within you in a repressed form? For instance, your judgment of arrogance in others might actually mask your own desire for recognition. And this also involves looking at your golden shadow, the qualities you admire in others. Your intense admiration for someone's creativity, well, that's often a signpost pointing to your own untapped potential. Third, and perhaps most crucially, is to practice self-compassion. Confronting your shadow, it can be uncomfortable. The instinct, of course, is to judge yourself harshly, but that only strengthens the repression. The antidote is compassion. Remember, the shadow is a universal part of being human. You are not uniquely flawed. This entire process is what Jung called individuation. It's the lifelong journey of becoming the unique, whole, and authentic individual you were always meant to be. For the high IQ person, this journey is especially critical. It's the path from intellectual one-sidedness to a state of psychic wholeness, where intellect and emotion work in harmony. This is a journey from the head to the heart, moving beyond what can be analyzed and into the messy, ambiguous realm of feeling. If these ideas are resonating with you, and you feel a pull to continue this journey of self-exploration, consider subscribing to this channel. We're dedicated to diving into these profound psychological truths to help navigate the path to a more authentic life. As you do this work, your relationships will inevitably transform. When you stop projecting your shadow, you free your partner from the impossible burden of being your savior or your scapegoat. You start to see them for who they truly are. A trigger is no longer a declaration of war. It becomes an invitation for mutual self-discovery. This is the ultimate promise of Jung's work applied to relationships, an intimacy where two whole individuals can stand together, creating a connection based not on illusion, but on the solid ground of mutual respect and authentic self-knowledge. The struggle doesn't just end. It becomes the very fire that forges a deeper, more meaningful love. We began with a painful paradox, the gifted mind that feels like a curse in human connection. We've journeyed into the unconscious, guided by Carl Jung's ideas, to uncover the hidden dynamics of the shadow and the power of complexes. It's a difficult truth to face, the realization that our most intimate struggles often start, not with our partners, but in the unlit corners of our own psyche. But the journey doesn't end in darkness. This is where the real transformation begins. Jung's psychology is a roadmap to wholeness. The very struggles that have caused so much pain, the loneliness, the frustration, aren't evidence of your brokenness. They're the symptoms of your depth. They're the growing pains of a psyche that's striving for something more than superficiality. The process of integrating the shadow is the alchemy that turns this struggle into gold. By withdrawing your projections, you reclaim your power and liberate your partner. By becoming aware of your complexes, you dismantle the hair triggers that sabotage intimacy, allowing you to respond with wisdom instead of reacting with woundedness. This work transforms the very nature of your loneliness. The isolation Jung spoke of begins to dissolve. Not because the world changes to understand you, but because you learn to understand and embrace yourself. You find a home within your own being. From this place of strength, you begin to attract a different kind of connection, one based not on a shared mask, but on a resonant depth. As Jung wrote, paraphrasing an old alchemist, no matter how isolated you are and how lonely you feel, if you do your work truly and conscientiously, unknown friends will come and seek you. Your intelligence, it's not your enemy. And your capacity for deep perception? That's not a curse. These are your gifts. But like any powerful tool, they must be balanced. The path for the intelligent individual, then, is to unite the head with the heart. It's about building a bridge between the conscious ego and the vast, powerful unconscious. It's the journey from being merely smart to becoming truly wise. The struggle with relationships, then, it's revealed to be a kind of sacred initiation. It's the crucible, designed to force you out of the safety of your intellect and into the fullness of your being. It's a calling to become whole. The path isn't easy, no, but it's the only one that truly leads to those authentic, meaningful connections your soul has been yearning for all along. So if this exploration resonated with you, please go ahead and like this video and share your thoughts in the comments below. What part of this journey spoke to you the most? Sharing your experience, it can be a powerful act of connection in itself. And if you wish to continue exploring the depths of psychology for a more authentic life, well, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. The journey inward, it's a continuous one, and there's always more to discover.